Moshi Monsters is a game that was popular in the 2010s and beloved by millions of players. However, throughout the years, the game went from one of the biggest names online to essentially a corpse of a series. So join me today as we go back and take a look at what truly happened to this enormous franchise. Hi everybody, I'm here on a Ferris wheel. I think someone died to death or threw up or something at the bottom, because I've been stuck up here for a good while. And now I'm here looking out for Ferris wheel eagles that are responsible for more casualties than sharks are where I'm from at least. So the Moshi Monsters series is a unique case for me because I'm not necessarily a massive fan of the series coming into it. I've been told it's basically Animal Jam for Europeans, and the mere thought of that kind of already upsets me. Starting off, the first point of this timeline takes place in the Glunge Age, which is basically like your stoner medieval age. We don't really know the specifics, but it gets mentioned that life here was pretty lame. Everyone was sad, and wheels didn't exist, and that's about it. It's really just Europe, but worse already. Besides that very specific point, Moshi Monsters takes place in Monstro City, and that's found on the Moshi Sphere planet, and would truly come into existence when the game released on April 16th of 2008. When you start the game, you're given the chance to adopt one of 6 monsters from 6 different species. You got Zammer, Poppet, Mammoth, Ewe, this one, and Katsuma, which is the one I went with, and apparently a ton of other people did, because looking at these rooms, I don't see a lot of those like flying little cherry freaks. These are also the 6 main characters technically. And then soon after, the game just drops you into its world and it's just like, okay, good luck kiddo, figure it out. But really it's about what you would expect. It's like playing mini games, decorating your house, and all that stuff until about December 6th of 2010 to February 8th of 2013, where we would be introduced to the missions. Imagine the spy missions from Club Penguin, but again, and arguably slightly worse. These are your point and click adventures where you need to solve problems of anyone you encounter, and there's like 50 of them in game. There's some side missions where you climb a beanstalk and collect film for a movie, but the main meat in SpaghettiOs are the super missions, consisting of 3 seasons of adventures, and this is where a majority of the in-game story takes place. So at least a little bit before December 6, 2010, by at least a couple days, this is the Elder Furry. Don't laugh. Before he was an elder, he was a college student studying Moshlingology in Superness, along with his pal Lavender Trogs. They were the best of friends until they decided not to, and Lavender Trogs became Dr. Strangeglove, the most evilest evilster who is now a shit, which basically is as stupid as it sounds. But essentially in the Moshi world, there's a class of species called the Moshlings, and these are specifically the thing I would argue made the game popular. Basically, they're a Pokemon or in-game pet equivalent. Like there's 300 of these little fellas, and your adopted monster adopts these monsters while you're adopting them, so it's like a weird adoption inception. But hey, now these monsters are Moshi Monsters, so it's like the name from the thing. It's like the thing of the thing. If Moshlings are exposed to too many bad vibes, they turn into glumps. So now we gotta protect Moshlings like Snoster Wobbleson, Snoster Wobbleson, Marcel, who I don't trust, Hocus the Wonky Wizard, Gurgle, and Simon Cowell. On Moshi Monsters missions, your objective is to make Dr. Strangeglove knock that shit off, as he also captures the Elder Furry in basically every conflict. The dude is pretty bad at not being a hostage. Along the way, you meet new pals, get new Moshlings, and find out that Dr. Strangeglove is part of Clonk, which is short for Criminal League of Naughty Critters, led by this guy. We don't even know who they are or anything about them. They're just a bad guy with gloves. Other members that you need to stop the plans of include Sweet Tooth, Commander Sassafras, and Marcel again. This is the face of a killer. But eventually you stop their antics by preventing them from capturing Moshlings or blowing up the sun. Just about everything this league does correlates with something in between. In between missions, your main monster can enjoy wonderful and silly activities such as buying things and playing some decent Flash games. In fact, there's a location called the Moshi Fun Park with a bunch of Flash games totally unrelated to Moshi Monsters, like the Kung Fu Panda 2 Kung Fu Hula Challenge game for the movie Kung Fu Panda 2, releasing in May of 2011, where I played for 45 minutes straight and eventually got a higher score than anyone in the world. If you think otherwise, you are wrong and stupid and probably maybe not right. Otherwise, this section almost acted as a mini Cool Math Games. This area comes from another site called Moshi Games, which is actually just a mini Cool Math Games, featuring some pretty big names actually, like Bloons and even Papa's Pizzeria. So you know what that means, it's all canon to the Papa's universe. Everywhere I go, I see his face. I can't leave me alone! Friends were another decently important aspect of this game. You can't really interact with specific players, which in my opinion, the severe lack of multiplayer is by far the greatest harm of this series. The most you can do is send gifts and messages to players, but from my knowledge, I was unable to directly interact with people through games and stuff, which I think was massively a missed opportunity. Still though, there's like this Nick Jr. animation charm to everything, which goes 2 ways, where they need to spell out everything going on to the stupid, insignificant babies playing the game that this is meant for. Playing Moshi Monsters as an adult felt like I was trying to binge watch Team Umizoomi in one sitting. It's nice, but after a while, you realize that you're probably not the demographic of tiny, unsmart hobbit people that buy Moshi Monsters memberships. Speaking of which, from what I can tell, this game was super manipulative in convincing children to get memberships. The cash system in any game with a membership is pretty bad, but here it's like very far away from each other. It's super awful. With the membership, you can go from a few default monster colors to everything on the hex and ooze with drippy drip and colorful colors. This is about my 4th time seeing memberships constantly being shoved in my face in like the past 3 months, but here especially, it's excessive like fire ants. In my opinion, this is the thing that Moshi Monsters did the worst, and eventually the game was temporarily blacklisted in some places for this specific reason, and that's arguably worse than fire ants. And for a game where you need to get a parent's permission and email to play, in a game where you can make cupcakes look like this, in a game where characters' eyes and loading screen will follow wherever your mouse is, in a game where there's a Watergate question in the Puzzle Palace, and in a game where there's a location called the Puzzle Palace, you shouldn't have things worse than fire ants. And a game involving these doesn't need to cause any drama. And a game involving 2011. A decent amount of Moshlings and in-game content exists to parody other pre-existing properties and people. There's already Simon Growell, but we got SpongeBob, Harry Potter, IKEA, but the most infamous example needs to temporarily be postponed because I need to tell you a story. When I was a youngster, so young that I was in the appropriate age demographic for this game, the age where I ate cat food because I couldn't reach the food on the kitchen counter and nobody helped me. Thanks, Mom, Dad. I still won't forgive you for that one. You remember 2008? I do. Yeah, you remember when I ate cat food? Yep, I saw my sibling playing the game with a blue Katsuma in their house, and in their house, I saw a Moshling, one that would forever slightly irritate me for its mere existence. That being Lady Googoo. I watched the baby as it began to groove when clicked upon. I asked, "Sibling, why is the baby grooving?" Only to be told, "It's Lady Googoo, you goddamn sponge cake!" Which is an insult I have yet to recover from to this day. But yeah, Lady Googoo is quite literally a stupid child made for stupid children. Music videos were another major Moshi Monster product, and they all sure do exist. The one song starring Lady Googoo called the Moshi Dance legally can't exist anymore because Lady Gaga took legal action for this character, in part because Lady Gaga didn't want this to feel like some sort of official collaboration, which was far from the case. She didn't want to be associated with this thing, which justifiably so, look at it. Eventually, Lady Googoo would be permanently removed from the game in any capacity, being replaced by Baby Rocks, which is also a thing I wish was in a blender. This is also around the time when the Moshi Monsters franchise was truly growing into this powerful figure of powerfulness. For the next couple years, the game would see numerous major updates and over 50 million unique players. In the span of 2 years, it would gain merch, new content, and you know me, I love reading, but unfortunately I couldn't pick up these books. I mean, as cool as they might be, I'm gonna have to avoid the reading this time at least. But of course, there would be spin-offs and new major entries that would each expand on certain aspects of the world, and those are all worth taking at least a little bit of a gander at. So let's have a lightning round of all the games that came out at this time, but like slower, not exactly a lightning round, like a this is the thunder from a few miles away round. November 6, 2011, Moshling Zoo. This is something that already existed in the computer game, but essentially this is Moshi Monsters DS. Buster Bumblechops is a character who is by far the most interested in finding and studying Moshlings. Here you need to help him find all the Moshlings you can for him, and it's about the same as before, and eventually this became one of the top sellers on the Nintendo DS. Cool. October 26, 2012. Moshling Theme Park is another game on the DS which serves about the same purpose as the previous game. Bumblechops takes over the zoo now that you've helped him enough, but now he's like, "Holy hot fudge and Budruckers, I want to die more than usual, let's go on a vacay." So you contact this shopkeeper named Dewey, who is also a pilot, just not a very good one, as the plane also just goes down and explodes, but miraculously everyone knew that he was a dogshit pilot and had parachutes already. Now the rest of the game involves you getting everyone back together and rebuilding the theme park to its former glory, ending this adventure by finding Buster after he makes you do extra work to find him, like he goes out of his way to make you do more. He kinda sucks. October 11th, 2013. Moshi Monsters Katsuma Unleashed is a DS and 3DS game about the default monsters who are all supposed to be the main characters getting captured by Strangeglove. All you do here is go on an adventure as the most popular guy, rescuing everybody else, slowly getting their powers along the way. Eventually you rescue the Elder Furry, unless you didn't 100% the game. In that case, they'll be rotting in a cage until the end of time because you were too lazy to get all the coins. December 4th, 2013. Moshling Rescue is a Candy Crush type game. It's rated for ages 100 plus. Most of us are never even going to be allowed to play this one if it was still available. December 18th, 2013, Moshi Monsters Village is your generic mobile game based on a pre-existing series where you just build up a town. There's not much to it. It shut down in 2017, but hey, moving along. December 2013. Alrighty, fellas. I was just as surprised as you're about to be. Did you know that there's just a Moshi Monsters movie? Like, when I saw the poster, I was like, yeah, it's one of those fake generic DeviantArt posters for movies, and that might exist. That's kind of neat. But no, this is just a movie. It just exists. In fact, it has so little cultural impact that I spent like 45 minutes trying to find a way to watch it, only to land on this YouTube video where the camera is slightly zoomed in and it's like sped up by 1.1 times, and it's titled Watch Moshi Monsters. The movie. Watch movies online free, and then I watched it, and in my genuine opinion, it's just a harmless, silly, not very good kids movie. It's like a 2.5 out of 10 if I'm being generous. But it's fascinating to me that this movie, from a series worth millions of dollars, had so little impact in any way. It's not my place to look at what happened here, so if you want to look at it, look into it, see why this exists, everything before or after, be my guest. With that being said, the movie follows Katsuma, Poppet, and all the other little goblins as they star in a movie in Monstro City, until Strangeglove steals the great Moshling Egg from Bumblechops after his expedition to Moshi Picchu, which is also a place that exists in a bunch of the games. And here it's just your generic fetch quest movie where they have 12 hours to do everything. They go to a jungle, they go to a candy place, they go to Jollywood, which you would think is Hollywood, but no, it's Bollywood. And there's an adoptable Moshling that's just a tiny man for some reason. It's just a slightly less interesting Dougal, and Dougal already sucks. Like, how do you look bad against Dougal? It's animated like I was the one who animated it. One of the collectibles is microwavable ramen that they almost die for. The best part was watching this stupid elephant fall from a high place. This was in theaters. The only silver lining, if I'm being totally honest, was Strangeglove. He's your average goofy cartoon villain like a lot of media, so it's really hard to mess that up. He's just a guy who likes playing chess and dancing and trying to blow up the sun. There's nothing wrong with that. Otherwise, this movie is your same Moshi antics as before. Strangelove is beaten, there's a dance party ending for all the kind of annoying characters, but this movie actually features one of the greatest potential story tidbits from a goddamn throwaway line like 8 minutes in. Basically, Bumblechops is being interviewed after finding this egg, and he mentions the Great Custard Flood of 99999.5. Now, if you're good at math like I am, you might recognize that the number 2013 and 99999.5 are pretty dang far away from each other, meaning that this world is currently, at minimum, in the year 100,000. And for a minute, I thought, like, how is this going to impact the timeline? And, well, it doesn't. It really doesn't, like at all. We already knew that the Moshi Sphere was an alien planet, and in fact, there's aliens, and that was already a major aspect of Season 2 of the Moshi Super Mission, so, like, I don't think it really does matter at all. It's purely a coincidence that Bollywood and Indian culture also became a thing here, so maybe that's just like a universal thing between all planets, but ultimately, no. This major revelation is extremely minimal and not at all important. But if you want to translate our years into their years, just add 100,000 to whatever the current year is. For example, December 21st, 100,013 to December 13th, 100,019. A big chunk of Moshi Monsters just kind of blends together during this period, which is a tad odd since it takes up about half of its current time as a series. The whole series begins to see a slowdown at this point. We went from having half a dozen things to release within a couple of years to sort of not really that. Older players begin to move on just simply because of growing up and thinking that this was a game for kids. And they would not be wrong in this case. I mean, look at it. With things like the declining player base and by proxy less revenue streams, Mind Candy, the developer of the series, nearly went bankrupt from everything. Yet somehow they managed to survive and beyond that made a few more games in the series throughout this period. February 12th, 2014. Moshi Monsters Kart is your generic endless runner. It's Subway Surfers, but worse. February 14th, 2014, it's Talking Poppet. It's Talking Tom. If I really need to explain it, then maybe you are in the target demographic for this game. On October 26, 2016, there would be Moshi Monsters Egg Hunt. The 6 playable monsters are completely gone at this point, as we only see Bumblechops, this giant roster of Moshlings and Glumps. It's essentially just mobile Moshi Monsters, otherwise it's just streamlined down with a little bit of fat trimmed. You still got houses, still collect Moshlings, still play a ton of the same games. Like, honestly, they could have just gone the extra mile and made this the mobile version of the Flash game, and it probably would have done really well. It's still available, but from what I can tell, it hasn't been updated in years, so I suppose Bumblechops is once again left alone to die. This is like the fourth time it's happened though, so it's whatever. And then you got the classic Kids Flash MMO Tragic Tragedy on December of 2019. The game would be abruptly shut down in part due to the shutdown of Adobe Flash. You already know what the shutdown of Adobe is, yada yada, lots of games use Flash. No Flash, no game, simple as that. On one hand, alright, whatever, it's the Flash game purge, another victim. On another hand, I feel like the original game being lost could have been easily avoided. In the past, I've talked about some big Flash games finding some workarounds to live on, and I think Moshi could have quite easily stuck the landing. Maybe they just didn't have the resources or time to do it. So on the 19th, that was that. No celebration, no direct continuation announced or planned, just a fallen empire, and honestly, that really sucks. The Egg Hunt mobile game is still available, but I think in part this has a chance of being taken off the App Store, at the moment at least, so if you want an official continuation of the classic game, this is about the best you can get. The DS games, movie, all that gunk is still technically available, but again, this is more like finding the remains of a golden age. Moshi Monsters Rewritten is still out there, yet with a lot of rewritten things by fans, you still gotta take it with a grain of salt. Though before the full shutdown, Mind Candy took a complete 180, which somehow managed to work, shockingly enough. In 2018, there would be the release of a wellness app called Moshi Monsters Sleep. It exists so kids can have help sleeping and overall benefiting their health, and I know I ragged on them before. I know their old way of pressuring people into memberships and buying stuff was kinda shitty, but honestly, I can praise this for what this is. It's seemingly harmless. At the moment, Moshi Monsters has just been rebranded to Moshi, and Moshi Sleep has been rebranded into Moshi Kids, so it can help in multiple ways. And that's basically Moshi Monsters. It's kinda neat watching how all these online games evolved and survived with the times. This one specifically kinda retired, which makes sense, but it's still out there, but not at the levels of power at its heyday. It's like when Disney Channel stars leave acting and do totally different things, but when you look back at their lives, you go, oh, that was Zach from Zach and Cody. That's where he is now. And though a lot of it was little baby gibberish, and that's what the in-game language sounds like, it sounds like a mix of German and Simlish. They say words like Flurbus and Fifi and Scoofy and Doofy and Marcel, just a bunch of made-up words. But in my honest, heartfelt, little heart-shaped opinion, I can kinda understand why people like this game. Honestly, besides Club Penguin, this had the most content, and I could see myself coming back to this. Though I feel like this game had a similar issue to Animal Jam, where I feel like you can kind of experience everything a membership could offer within a month. Like the missions, maybe a few of the rare Moshlings, all that. It really wasn't that much. If you want to play this game in any capacity, just about all major entries to that matter are still accessible. I'd recommend maybe checking out some of them if that's your thing, but that's really that. I don't even know if it's pronounced Moshi or Moshi. Whichever one you think, you're right. Otherwise, I'm all hunky-dory now. This adventure has come to a close. I hope you enjoyed my exotic ramble. I hope you find yourself seeing more. Here's my obligatory statistics. Follow me on every social media. I'm probably there, even Miiverse, until it's shut down. I'm not on Miiverse anymore. Drink some water, ask 3 before me, eat your vegetables unless you want to become a vegetable, and most of all... Whoa, is that a Ferris wheel eagle? Oh, no! Oh, that was really scary. Oh, I gotta look out for those. Jeez Louise, that was close. But yeah, see you all next time. Oh no, it's coming back!